Sarvam kshanikam, sarvam kshanikam. So everything is transient, momentary. So do not keep your mind attached to anything too long. So of course, cutting down the regrets of the past, anxiety of the future is important. But at the same time, equally important is the attachment to the present. Because by paying too much attachment to the present is going to haunt you as regrets of the past. So present is always going to become a past. So at all three levels, you have to remove your attachment and be an observer. So now there are different philosophies had come and gone, and from great preachers like Buddha said everything is kshanikam, right? At the same time, there are different philosophies. One says everything is nitya. That nothing has ever died, nothing has been born. Everything is the same. So which one to believe? So on one hand, people are saying, Shankaracharya says, nothing has happened. No birth has taken place. Everything is an illusion. And on the other hand, Buddha says, everything is transient. So it all depends what frame of mind the people come to you looking for. Like Buddha was a born prince, right? And then when he started preaching, no wonder a lot of his followers were princes also. And these princes were enjoying the highest of their wealth, right? So their attachment was for the wealth. And when somebody is attached to the wealth, the way to bring them out of that is by telling that this is anitya, it's not going to last. But try telling the same thing to the people of tsunami in Japan. Oh, it's okay, this was transient anyway. He says, come on, it's easy for you to say. So at that time, when they are told of thinking of nitya, which is always shasvat, when you brood over that, at least it will lessen their grief of losing what they had. So it's a different frame of mind and different set of seekers.
You have to take medicine as per the prescription of doctor, not as per your own wish.
Right. Exactly.
So doctor is more important.
True. So different philosophies surfaced in a different ages in the past. And the reason was because people's mindset was different. When there is so much richness, and in America, for example, when there are literally, there are no poor, the poverty line is not as bad as like a lot of remote, the third world countries. You have to make people realize that everything is transient. Then only you can take their attachment out of all these things and make you realize that yes, that is true, if you really start thinking about it. So, so the time to do something is to do it now. And sometimes we have to look for the clues which are outside in our life. They are everywhere. If we look for those clues, they are there. Like a little bit of turning of gray. It should give you like a signal that things are happening, even though at a very imperceptible way, very subtle way, very slow, in a slow fashion, but things do happen. So we have to start taking clues. You know, you look at they had an example of Hanuman, who was a prince in a previous life. But he was on his balcony on the top of his palace, and he was looking at the evening sky. And he was just like lost his attention for a few minutes, and all of a sudden the colors had changed so much. Then it made him realize that whatever I'm attached to is so transient, that even the sky colors, like in a matter of few minutes, they change. So things change so fast. Why am I attached to all these things? So that's when he started seeking a permanent tattva. And that made him meet Ram, who was our permanent tattva. So things should start stirring in your mind. The clues are out there. Like they give an example of Dashrath. Dashrath had, done a big puja in his palace, and Abhishek Jal was the result of that puja. It was a very pious, very pavitra jal. So he wanted it to be distributed to all his queens. Now, so he sends the servants to send it out. So all the queens got it, except Kaushalya. So Kaushalya did not get that jal. So she felt that king has deserted me and he did not think about me. So what's the point? And in those days, and say husbands are everything, and they were so devoted, he says the life is not worth living. So she ties a rope and she's going to commit suicide. It just happened to be at the right time. Dasharatha Raja walks in. He says, what are you doing? Why are you going to commit suicide? He says, well, because you did not think of me fit enough to receive that Abhishek jal that came out of this beautiful puja. So I did not think that life is worth living. He says, no, I told our very faithful servant to deliver it to you first. He says, I don't know what happened. So as they are talking, the servant walks in and he brings the jal. Here is your Mataji. This is your jal. So Dasharatha gets very upset. He says, I gave it to you long time ago and you were supposed to bring it. You are the most faithful servant that I have and I wanted to deliver it to first hand to my, Kaushalya. So he says, Maharaj, aapki baat to sab theek hai, lekin look at me. It took me a long time. I'm barely walking. I have bent over. My strength is not as fast as I used to be. And then suddenly it wakes up, it stirs the Dasharatha's mind. He says, this is the faithful servant. He literally grew up with me in the palace. And they had a favorite name. He was like considered a beam or something, like they had some name for him. He was considered a very strong guy. And he says, is that the same guy? All of a sudden it wakes up Dasharatha's eyes. He says, this servant used to take care of like 10 people in one time. He has so much strength and now he can hardly walk. And it makes you realize that body changes, like everything changes. And then it gives him the feeling that this is the time that I should spend more time and efforts in thinking of Nitya Bhav and turn into something that is permanent rather than in day to day. So sometimes subtle clues come in our life also. So things don't stay the same. The question is how, once you think of everything anitya, the way to do is to put somewhere else, because mind is monkey. It needs to do something. So when it takes itself away from the anitya thing, it has to put somewhere which is nitya. So that's the faith. The faith comes in. So Jinchandra Maharaj had a young guy came to him and for asking questions. He says, I come and listen to your talks and this and that, but don't you think it's a little silly to bow down to statues of God and believe that there is a God and this and that? So Jinchandra Maharaj says that, listen, these 4 months I'm talking about Shanta Sudaras. It is written by Vinay Vijay Maharaj 700 years ago. I'm not adding or taking away from this. This is what it is. Right? So first of all, I'm not claiming any responsibility. I'm just delivering the message. 2, there are a lot of things I can argue with you. That if you think that we are fools by believing in the statues, what are you holding on? Say, do you have $100 bill in your pocket? He says, yes. He says, give it to me. He says, why? He says, it's just a piece of paper. He says, no, this is 100 rupees bill. He says, you have faith in a piece of paper that is going to do something for you. So can't we have faith in a statue? So the faith comes first. And then faith changes total outlook in life. So once you develop faith, everything is God. Everything is Paramatma. Everything is Nitya. But when you don't have faith, everything is Anitya. Then you get attached to whatever you get out of this. But when you think of Nitya, then everything makes sense, right? He says the same way, what happened to Eklavya? Eklavya, Dronacharya told him that he cannot teach him, right? So he goes to the jungle and he makes a small statue of Dronacharya. And then with that, he perfects himself to be the best archer. Somebody who can beat Arjun. He was a real competition with Arjun. But he did not have any physical guru with him. So his faith brought out the guru in himself. So it's all about insight, right? So when we look at all this anitya, the thing is that anitya always needs nitya as a background to be defined. anitya against what?
The reference.
You need a reference point. So anitya always has nitya built into it. So anitya cannot have existence of its own. It has its glory, a temporary glory, but against something else. So that even that glory is defined in relation to something.
So anitya has nitya in it.
Nitya built into it, right?
Yeah.
So if you're standing in front of a wall, and I see you going from point A to point B, the only way I can tell if the wall is steady. So your movement, no matter how proud you may be of your movement, something that is steady is always there to define your movement. So it's all philosophical, but you have to realize that whenever we pay attention to all these things, something that is immobile, something that is permanent, is responsible to give you all the
Fabric
glory.
of space.
So that's what Krishna says, fabric of space.
Fabric of space.
Krishna says, Arjun, take all the glory, but I am that glory. But you don't have to think about it. Take all the credit you get, but that credit is limited. King without a kingdom and soldier without a shield is not a king, not a soldier. So everything has its own glory, only temporary. So we have to realize that. So if something that is temporarily created and has whatever glory it has, how much glorious would be the one that it is created out of? So that's what we have to start thinking. So anitya bhavana is not to make you depressed, that whatever you have is going to be temporary, why am I wasting my time, this and that. But take your mind away and put you something bigger, something that is infinite. And when you're infinite, you have no fear. There are so many positive advantages of when you put your mind into something bigger. And you are that bigger. So Vinay Vijayji is trying to soften up our deep attachment to the worldly objects, right? And making us realize that the time limit that is related to all these objects, and that's why the asharan bhavana, anitya bhavana, is all showing the limitation and showing us that our belief is directed. And we are acting with faith. There is not a human being in this world who has no faith. Except the faith is in a wrong direction. Somebody has faith in the rupees, somebody has faith in the dollars, somebody has faith in people, whatever. Faith is always there. We can never exist without faith. Even you go to a doctor, there is a faith. You go buy something, you have faith in the corporate world. But that, okay, this product will do me good. One way or the other, it will give me that pleasure or whatever. So faith is every single moment we're using the faith, except it is misdirected. That's all. So Vinay Vijayji Maharaj is saying that take that faith out and put it somewhere where you cannot fail. So change is always a fixed rule. We may not be able to predict it, but we can expect it, that change is always going to happen. So the problem is, the reason we have so much faith in the worldly objects, because we have so much faith in our own senses. The senses perceive this world, and we believe that this is what it is, and it's nothing else. But the science has proven that senses are fake. Senses fool us all the time, but we never realize that. Excuse me. Senses fool us all the time, and we don't even know it. And scientifically, that's been proven. That takes us our discussion to fabric of space. We saw a beautiful show on Nova, and they really brings out good points, because over the period of years, the science has come out so much ahead, and now we are realizing that what our beliefs used to be are totally shaken up, and the world is not as we see it. We used to think that the space is an empty thing. There is nothing there. But now we realize that space is not empty. It's a physical structure. It's a physical structure that you put something on it, it creates a dent in it. So that's why the name
can
of the
twist
show
it.
was the fabric of space.
You can twist it, you
You can twist it, you can turn it. It has a curvature, it has a shape, it has a size and everything. But we thought that space was empty. Space is not empty. Because they thought, under the Newtonian physics, they said that all the planets which are going around the sun, our moon which is going around the earth, they're all because of the gravity. Gravity is an illusion. Gravity does not exist. There is no pull, so-called pull, that earth is generating to pull the moon towards itself. There is nothing like that anymore. What it is that it's almost like a pool table, right? Say made out of a flexible plastic, right? And you put a bowling ball in that. So it's going to create a crater, like a depression. Now, so far, and then you put a ball circulating. So because of that depression has created that pull on that ball is going to keep on circulating around that bowling ball. And that's exactly what is happening. The weight of the sun is so much on the fabric of space that all these planets are going around. That's all there is.
you go
Rubber
to,
fabric, right?
Einstein's
Correct, Einstein theory.
yeah, you go to
So-
that mall, you put a coin, it goes circle.
Right,
it
yeah,
goes
it's
in.
something like
Just
that.
something like that.
Now, okay, it's just for explanation, but it has a bigger implications. Now, if the space is bent up, the time has to be bent up too. Because the time is created by the space. Because
Say that again. I missed the first sentence.
if the space is curved, and space is curved, right? So the time has to be curved also, because the time is created by movement of one object against the other. So whatever rays are coming out of the sun have to be bent also.
It's bends, yeah.
Is also bent. So we are not really seeing the real time. So time is an illusion because of the space being an illusion. Now, if you look at a distant stars, the light that is coming from the distant stars is coming. But who knows how much bending it has to go through?
Right, so
Because
it's
we
not
know
where
of
it
only
is.
one band of this solar system only. But it must have traveled to so many bands
Right.
and much more massive than the sun itself. I mean, there are some suns which are a million times more powerful than our sun.
Right.
And how much force it would have created to bend this fabric of space. So it bends and then bends and then bends again and bends again and bends again. Ultimately it comes to you. Now what happens when the light is bent? You see the rainbow, right? You see the rainbow when the sun comes out and all the recent the clouds were there and this rainwater, the rain droplets are hanging in the atmosphere. The light goes in, gets reflected. It opens up the nice 7 colors. Now, if you happen to be in a red zone, you will think that that star is red. You go into different solar system, that star is yellow.
Yeah.
And that could be green. Or it would have no color. We don't know.
And actually it is not where you see it is.
Exactly. It's
Yeah,
like
exactly.
a,
It's
it's
all
like
over
a, it's like a stick. Then you put it in the medium of the water, the stick is bent. Now you know the stick is not bent. But because it's such a simple thing to understand, science already has explained that the medium through the water and the air are 2 different things.
Right.
Now you tell me how much can we rely on these senses?
It's all Maya.
It's all illusion.
Maya.
It's total illusion. So we are the waves on the ocean surface. But when we think we are the waves and don't think that we are the ocean, we have a problem. So now we are afraid of death.
Right.
Because as a wave, we are born and of course we're going to have to die.
Right.
So when we think that we are the ocean itself, the fear goes. So that's the only thing, is the illusion that we are living in. And the illusion is all composite result of 5 senses. And we have to come out of that limited existence, because senses can only let you have a limited vision of this huge universe, or whatever you call, or millions of universes, or whatever is out there, infinite. We are dabbling only on the shore of the huge ocean. There is no way. I mean, before all these costos and all that, they explored, they made the scuba equipment and all that. We didn't know what the ocean had
What's
to hold on. We
underneath,
were
right?
just looking at the ocean and that's it. We never knew all these things existed. And then we came up, all these beautiful coral reefs and beautiful marine life came up, and then the whole thing exploded, right?
Great Barrier Reef of Australia.
Great Barrier Reef, everything, right? And then came these robots that were, because even with the scuba suits, you still cannot go further than certain depth. If you have to go beyond that, you're going to be crushed from the weight of the water. So then they had these robots. Now they're exploring the deep, deep surfaces of the ocean. And that also brought out so many beautiful things that we never thought. Our concepts change all the time. We thought that sun is the only sole energy source for the whole world. But that's not true.